Is the EV revolution going to kick off a new era of American manufacturing swagger? I actually think so, and today I want to tell you why. So welcome back to All Cars, my friends. I'm John, and this idea has been noodling in my head for a few days since I read an article about a vehicle. Well, we've all seen it now. It's the Hummer EV. Now, I do not want this vehicle. It is 9,000 pounds. It is over $100,000. This is not what I need in my life, but I can't tell you the last time I looked at a vehicle, especially by General Motors, and went, heck yeah, man, America. And I think that's been lost for a long time, 40 years, something like that, in American auto manufacturing. The way I see it is back in the 50s and the 60s, America was building the best cars in the world, cars that people around the world coveted. You think about the 57 Chevy, the 64.5 Mustang. I've always liked the Ford Galaxy, the original Corvette, the original Thunderbird. And that's not to mention the luxury cars, the Lincolns and the Cadillacs, big fins and all that chrome. We can look back on some of those cars and kind of laugh at them as too big, too slow, too heavy. They didn't handle it all. The styling was ridiculous. But the manufacturers were swinging for the fences, right? They were optimistic, and they were trying to create something special in the marketplace. Now, when the 70s rolled around, the American manufacturers were kind of caught flat-footed and had to rush to produce smaller cars. And through the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, I feel that they kind of retrenched, right? They kind of dug in and tried to protect their little piece of ground as their market share evaporated. They were trying to revolutionize their entire business from design and concept to manufacturing, trying to come up with new engines and transmissions, but still build a quality material in the face of having to roll back some labor as they lost market share. Sure, during the 80s there were some, and 90s and 2000s, there were some cars that were almost revolutionary and very successful. I think of the Ford Taurus specifically. But there are also examples through that period where manufacturers were punished for being a little too out there. Think of the GM Dustbuster minivans or the Pontiac Aztek, for example. Now, the Dustbuster minivans could be argued that not only were they ugly, but they also were just built really poorly and were not competitive with the Dodge minivans, the Chrysler minivans. The Aztek was actually a pretty good car that was a horrible example of corporate styling gone wrong. But all of this leads me with, that's why I like Chrysler in the 90s. The neon, the cloud cars, the LH cars. Chrysler wasn't playing careful. They were playing big. Unfortunately, those cars could not match the imports in terms of reliability and durability. And I think this is largely continued for 30-ish some odd years. The American manufacturers have had their successes, but too often these cars are evolutions of each other. Think about the Cavalier, from a square box to a rounded box to eventually the Cobalt. Now, this concept of having a bit of swagger, it's not starting with EVs, but I've seen it increasing recently. Let's look back at Tesla. The Model S is beautiful. The Model 3, they could have done anything. To come out with an affordable, more affordable EV, they could have made the Chevy Bolt or the Nissan Leaf, but they didn't. They made something that I truly think is going to go down pretty much as a classic for where it sits in the market. Ford's come out with the Maverick, the Bronco Sport, the Bronco. They're leading in electrification with their F-150. There's been a lot of great news, certainly with the Corvette. It's a beautiful car that can hold its own with anybody, and even Stellantis FCA is getting in the game too with the new Wagoneer. Not breaking any styling rules, but it's certainly big and it's got that swagger. So as we look at EVs, I think this provides a lot of opportunity for the American manufacturers basically to hit a giant reset button. These skateboard platforms are almost the holy grail of what manufacturers have been looking for with modular platforms. Build a platform, electric brakes, electric steering, and all of a sudden you can put almost any body on it. This is really going to drive down development costs, and they're much simpler to make reliable because you've got the batteries, electrics, and a motor. This should help the American manufacturers as well. And I think that they're starting to really spread their wings. Now, with Ford, Lincoln has, with their more recent products, really set out and charted their own course, and I love them. I absolutely love them. They're no longer a nicer Ford. Lincoln is proud of being an American luxury car, and they're doing something a little bit different. They're not chasing BMW. I kind of see it with Cadillac as well, certainly with their upcoming EV SUVs. Styling may not be for you, but at least they're super expressive. But the car that jumped out at me was that Hummer. And it's for two, almost three different reasons. The first is that General Motors, who after their bankruptcy, it can be argued they're building great looking vehicles, but over and over again, I've heard people say they've cheapened out their products. But they took the Hummer brand that environmentalists absolutely hated and applied it to an EV. And then their first product's 9,000 pounds, over $100,000. It's a ridiculous product. I don't ever want to have one. But dang, is it brash and is it in your face, and does it not just reek of America? Specifically, I was watching a review of it, and in the C-pillar, I believe it is, there's an American flag built in there. This is a company that's got a little swagger. It's got a little mojo, and it's not afraid to express itself. As a matter of fact, I found out there's articles going through the different Easter eggs that GM has hidden in the Hummer. I expect to see more of this. Some of that swagger that Ford's got right now with their new products, some of what I think Stellantis is starting to do. I think we're going to start seeing this, and it doesn't just apply to those big three as well. Certainly Tesla with their theoretical upcoming truck, but Lucid, Canoo, all of these are doing something a little bit different, but very proudly a little bit different. They're not even necessarily looking back at history and updating it like maybe the Honda E. They're doing something big swing for the fences moves. And I think this EV revolution could really kick off a really historic age for American manufacturers in styling and in just a little bit of in your face. Let me know what you think below, guys. Thanks.